What's up guys, Nor here and welcome to Book of Showtime Sub-Chapter 5. As always, if you have a topic you'd like for me to cover for Book of Showtime, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below or anywhere you can reach me on social media or the Book of Showtime Discord. So a while back I mentioned that I would be starting a sub-series called True or False, and while I never really felt the energy of the concept, I wanted to share two takes from what would have been the pilot. The Oakland A's moving to Las Vegas is a flop, or the Oakland A's moving to Las Vegas isn't good for baseball. Earlier this season, when the Mets were playing against the Athletics, the SNY broadcast mentioned that the A's were all but moving to Vegas in the near future, and since then the wheels have been in motion for said move. It actually never really registered to me until my dad had mentioned himself that it's a shame that Oakland is losing their ball club, and yeah, it really is. I'm not even an Athletics fan. I never really cared or thought about them so much because the Mets didn't play them. This was an American League West team, and with the Astros being a powerhouse, they were pretty much an afterthought in their own division. They had a good stretch for a few years from 2018 to 2020, even winning the West in the pandemic-shortened season, but it all seems so long ago. The fan attendance has been abysmal in the last couple of years, and I really just don't blame the fans for not showing out. The A's are on track to lose well over 100 games, and that tends to happen when you're dead set on not building a winning environment. Since 2021, they've either traded or opted not to resign Chris Davis, Sean Murphy, Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea, Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, AJ Puck, Christian Pache, Mark Kanya, Starling Marte, and Chris Bassett. I'm missing a few, but you get the gist. No one wants to spend their hard-earned cash to watch a glorified minor league team. The fact that A's fans are thrown under the bus sometimes is ridiculous. Who would subject themselves to this mediocre team? Just look at the players that I listed that are gone. If you had all those players on one team, that's a pretty good team. I do commend the fans that go because they have a good time even if the team is bad. This is a team that's been based in Oakland since 1968, and they've had some legendary players come through like Reggie Jackson, Ricky Henderson, Dennis Eckersley. So for a team to just not be in Oakland, for that franchise to just not be in Oakland anymore, it's just awful. I opted not to include this in the pilot because it's more of an opinion piece than a take, but really, what's the difference? Next, Kenny Omega will be a WWE superstar. It's funny because this take alone shows how old the pilot is, and a few days ago, Kenny Omega and the rest of the Elite all re-signed with AEW, but still, never say never. I actually had to kind of restructure my take because I did want to talk about this, so here it is. If you asked about 2 years ago, I'd say false. If you asked around 10 months ago, I'd say true if other things fall into play. If you ask today, I'm going to say false, and here's why. Kenny Omega has for the better part of over a decade now been a unanimous top 10 wrestler, and he's usually number one, to be honest. But as great as he is, he's never competed on the biggest stage, which no matter what, it's WWE. Not trying to take a shot at AEW or New Japan, but when you look at the numbers that WWE does on cable, what they do on social media, the biggest platform is WWE. It doesn't have the best wrestling, but it has the biggest platform. That could be something that Kenny takes as a challenge. It would already add to his stacked resume and claim to being the GOAT if he got over and became world champion in WWE. Best wrestler on the grandest of stages? Come on, it writes itself. Under Vince, there's no chance. He'd have no idea how to book or present Kenny, and you can't use Cody as the blueprint because Cody has previous ties in WWE. Kenny Omega has taken a lot of silly shots at WWE over the years, and it would behoove one to assume Vince wouldn't forget. Under Triple H, it's a maybe. Under Vince, no. I knew before Blood and Guts that the Elite were a package deal, and if Kenny went to WWE, the Bucks would for sure be with him, but all that's been thrown out the window with them all signing extensions. It would have been a monster long shot to like the smallest possible percentile because AEW is technically the Elite's company. They built that company. They have family working behind the scenes. They have the trios titles, and the fact that they can also go work in New Japan and AAA and basically wherever they want to. Why would you throw that out the window to go to WWE? Prying them away from that would have been a tall task. And Tony Khan, he's willing to spend money, so unless WWE is really going to give Kenny Omega the absolute bag, and by proxy the Young Bucks would have to get the absolute bag, it would have been a very tall task. So all in all, Kenny Omega being a WWE star, that would have been false. In Chapter 19, we ranked every other Call of Duty mode. Some of you COD fans might have spotted this and might be wondering why I didn't rank Blackout and Black Ops 4. Well, to me, it was just another multiplayer mode, and the third mode in Call of Duty is historically a PvE mode. Black Ops 4 was interesting because it didn't have a campaign, just multiplayer, zombies, and Blackout, which was its first foray into the Battle Royale genre. I didn't like Battle Royale games then. I still sort of don't now, even though Fortnite is fantastic and I wish I had a regular 6v6 mode, but I digress. I wasn't a big fan of Blackout. It was boring. I tried only like 3 or 4 matches at most, and then that was it, right back to zombies. I also didn't rank Ghost Chaos mode either. I honestly forgot about it, but since it was an Extinction sub mode, just like Modern Warfare 3 Chaos was a Spec Ops sub mode, they all fall into one banner for me, and it doesn't change my rankings. In Chapter 20, we discussed the essence of remakes. So my friend Cynthia said this: I agree, I've yet to play a remake I disliked so far. I know Microsoft will probably do a lazy Gears 2 and 3 remake in the next few years. To which I responded, well, if they're on par with what Ultimate was, that'd be okay to me. It's not good, but it is serviceable. First off, I'm not saying that Gears Ultimate wasn't good. It was a great remake, but what I'm saying here is that the bar has gone up since 2016, so just doing a remaster on the levels of Gears 2 and 3 would for sure be a major letdown. I think there's a lot they can do with both Gears 2 and 3 as far as fleshing out the game and strengthening the mechanics. In fact, I've been wanting to replay Gears 3 for a while, and it hasn't happened, and one of the reasons is that there's always a remaster rumor floating around. After Cynthia and I finished Gears 2 and Dead Space 3, a month later during that big final backwards compatibility patch, they both got an FPS boost on Xbox, which was such bad timing. In Chapter 22, we talked about characters we'd like to see in Mortal Kombat 1. I Need to Win says, as for horror characters, I want Ash, Ghostface, Art the Clown, Michael Myers, Pinhead, Freddy Krueger, and Jason, but I don't think they'll add returning guest characters in the game. There's just so many horror characters I want, but I know it'll just be like 4 or 5 of them, and that's hard to choose. Art the Clown is a pretty good fit for Mortal Kombat because the gore in Mortal Kombat has been a little unsettling the last 2 games. It's been pretty gross, and if you've ever seen Terrifier, you know it's a pretty twisted movie when it comes to gore. I'm actually a little surprised it wasn't Ben who mentioned Art, as he requested this topic and he made us watch Terrifier because he's a very, very sick man. So a while back I asked on Twitter for some hot takes. My friend Amy says, I don't think it's a bad game, but I think Skyrim is highly overrated and one of the worst Elder Scrolls games. It felt outdated even when it came out, and I think it's funny 80% of people can't boot it up anymore without having 200 mods installed. I agree that Skyrim isn't a bad game, and in fact, after avoiding it like the plague for 10 years, I finally loaded up the Anniversary Edition, and the game was really fun. I won't lie to you guys, it was really, really good. Mind you, I only played it because 1, it was on Game Pass, and 2, after having a fantastic time playing Vermintide 2, I really wanted to play a medieval fantasy game where you just pick up a sword and shield and beat up some monsters, and sadly there's not really too many of those on console. Skyrim did satisfy that itch, but I do agree it's highly overrated. I'm not even a graphics guy, and I have to mention that this is an ugly game. There's also only about 7 voices between all the NPCs, and I think the level progression is pretty slow too, and even after the 2,000 times this game has been re-released, there's still a laundry list of bugs in the game. But even past all that, it's still solid, and as big as the world is, the game doesn't feel too bloated, which is pretty interesting. It feels like all the stuff has been fun to do so far, although this is 10 years of content between all the DLC and Anniversary and Special Edition content they've added in. I did take a break though to play other games, and I don't think I'm going to go back and complete Skyrim. If it was better and a more polished title, I would have stuck with it, but it's ugly, buggy. The Fallout games are ugly and buggy too. I never got the appeal over these games, and I remember once I was arguing with someone like, Fallout sucks. It does. Fallout sucks. Fallout 3 sucks. New Vegas sucks. Fallout 4 is just Fallout 3 at 60 frames. They all suck, and you know what? I have no problem saying that. But the dude, he claims that I just didn't play Fallout 3 long enough to like it. And when I asked how long I should play it, he had the nerve to say 6 hours. 6 hours! 60 minutes, 6 times. I can't count on my hands and feet how many games I can beat in 6 hours. If a game takes 2 hours to get going, that's a problem. Now, I know I might come up like a hypocrite because I'll praise some other games that have slow starts, but Fallout is just so boring and ugly to look at. It's just, I can't. Anyway, I 100% agree with Amy on this one. Skyrim is indeed overrated, but it's also one of the better time sinks that I've dabbled in. My brother Nicholas's hot takes are Fortnite ruined gaming and Kobe isn't as good as people think he is. Ooh, that's interesting. First off, I wouldn't say Fortnite ruined gaming, as it's had a massive impact on gaming as a whole, and I think it's one of the most important games of all time. And to me, I think they set a model that no one has been able to replicate, which that is the bad thing. No one has been able to replicate their model, namely the Battle Pass. This isn't too much a bad thing, so much as it's something that everyone copies and hasn't really done right. Fortnite is probably one of the most influential games of all time too, and the Battle Pass has swept over the gaming industry like crack did to the black community under Reagan. That's probably the worst thing I'll ever say on these videos, as I try to keep it as PG and upbeat as I can, but I just could not resist there. By the way, stream Ronald Reagan era on Spotify. It's a good song. Free markets can be, though. Anyway, every game has a battle pass. Every game is launching with a battle pass. Games that didn't have a battle pass shifted to using one. And as someone who routinely takes breaks from a lot of these live service games like Dead by Daylight and Rainbow Six, it's just, man, you know, I've missed out on so many cool skins. And I know the battle pass is cosmetic only. Well, in a lot of games it's cosmetic only, but in some games, you know, the drip is, you want to look fly, you want to mac out when you're doing your thing. And for some reason, while everyone has ripped off Fortnite's battle pass, no one has seemed to do it right outside of Siege to me. Every pass is a massive grind and usually forces you to overplay the game. My brother, the legendary Weaver, he barely played Fortnite last season, and he was near the end of the pass, not even doing the challenges, just playing the game naturally for fun. My point is this: if you're going to do the pass, don't make it a slog of a grind. Make it flow. It's fun when you level up quick in any game. As for the Kobe take, that's starting to become a lot more common, and it's actually a pretty accurate take. Don't get me wrong, Kobe's an all-time great. He's a top 15 player. He's definitely the second greatest shooting guard of all time. But when you compare him with people like Jordan and LeBron, I'm sorry, he's not up there with them. I feel like players like Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, and Carmelo Anthony, those are all-time great players, but people are more in love with the culture around the player than they are the player's body of work. I never see people get on Kobe for having pretty pedestrian stats at times, especially in the playoffs. He's disappeared in some big games. And the internet likes to harp on LeBron for needing help, but look at the finals teams that Kobe has. They were always stacked, and I never see anybody get on Kobe for losing with that 2014. In fact, I think when you compare Kobe, Jordan, and LeBron, the thing that separates LeBron from everyone else to me is, one, the peak longevity, and two, the fact that he's carried some absolute mid to the finals. Kobe would not get out the second round with those 2018 Cavs, I promise you. Same thing with Jordan. He wouldn't even make it out of the first round with the 2007 Cavs. Kobe Bryant, he's a tremendous volume scorer. He's a great defender. Icon. I love Kobe to death. I don't want to speak too ill of him. I don't want to make it look like I don't like Kobe. I love Kobe, but he just doesn't come close to LeBron or Jordan for me. If you want to talk about who the biggest star is, who the biggest icon is, it is Kobe all the way. I'm sorry. Kobe, he's the man. But top 5? Heck, top 10? Even that might be a stretch. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Inshallah, I will see you in the next chapter.